Hello and welcome to my ND/NT marriage channel. I wanted to talk about desirability. My husband isn't very Aspie, however he does have this particular trait, and I feel like this would be probably the most common trait between them all. When I first moved in with my partner, it was probably the most significant thing that I noticed was missing. He didn't make me feel desired. It was very much like friend-zoned, moving in with a housemate, that kind of thing. With my previous neurotypical boyfriends, they just had this way of just letting me know that they thought that I was yummy, for lack of a better word. It was a look or a touch or a word or a playful gesture, just doing fun, goofy, playful things that left you knowing that they found you desirable and irresistible. And when I moved in with my partner, that was noticeably absent. In those early days where he was watching a ton of TV, for example, there was definitely no desirability. It was him just existing in his world and then coming to bed and then wanting sex. I would say expecting sex, but that's another story. There was a time where I had gone up the street to buy some lingerie, and in this case it was just matching sets of bras and underpants. And I decided to do a catwalk model thing for him, right? So I'm putting on one set and I come out and I'm like, ooh, yeah, ooh, you know, and he's like, shh, tally's on. And I'm like, you can't be serious. Who is this guy? What? Tally's on? And I go and get the next set and come back out and this goes on, and then when I finish showing him the sets and got zero response, I just got dressed in a t-shirt and shorts. And at the time I remember being really flawed and confused. He was the first guy I had ever met who reacted that way, like, I'd never met anybody like that. And of course, moving forward, when we started the housework saga battle thing, and after our first child was born and his anger got more significant and more pronounced, there was definitely no desire there. Even if he did say the odd compliment now and again, it would never have offset the amount of critiquing he was doing. But he doesn't do that kind of desirability anyway. It's so hard to explain what that looks like. And even he has asked me for examples, like, what do you mean? What are you saying that this would look like? And I'll say to him, it might be coming and giving me a kiss on the neck while I'm doing dishes, or kissing my forehead and saying, hey, beautiful, or hugging me in a sort of sexy, playful way, kissing me while I drive, holding my hand and sneaking a kiss inside of a cinema, just basic things like that I had always considered stock standard as a neurotypical. However, for him, they're just not things he thinks about. And even when I say them to him, he hears me and he registers it, but it just straight up is not something he's thinking about, let alone doing. So remember, I had asked him once if he thought I was beautiful, and he said that he didn't. Not in those words, but that's pretty much what happened. Cut forward about 10 years later, maybe more, and I'd said to him something about, you never compliment me, you don't give me pet names. And this had come about because he kept referring to his cousin, the one I've talked about before, as being beautiful, so beautiful she could be a model, blah, 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 blah. I'd heard about her beauty so much, it was just driving me nuts. And so I said to him, I don't want to hear about how attractive this cousin of yours is. I said to him, you never say that I'm beautiful. And he goes, yes, I do. And I said, you don't. And then about a week or two later, we go out and he says, "You look beautiful." And it was the first and only time he'd said it. And he'd said it because I said that he doesn't say it, and so he knew that I wanted him to say it. Which is cool, because I suppose I helped him know that that's what I wanted. But at the same time, it's not an organic compliment, because he only gives the compliments after I've told him what it is the compliment that I want. If you can understand that at all. And he hasn't said it since. So it's not like these things come easy to him. They're just not registering in his mind at all. And so that's one of the things that I would say is probably a common trait amongst Aspies. And it's certainly one of the things that has most bothered me, or has felt the most absent since I've met him. That lack of, "I find you attractive." We went on a holiday once to another country, and he was on a train, and he was very sweet. Every time we got on that train, he would make sure that there was a seat for me. And he would often stand in front of me holding onto the horseshoe bar. And there was one time he was standing there, and he's got this tight t-shirt on, and he's got a really fine body, and he's holding onto this thing, and he's resting his head like this, and he's a foot above everybody else, and he looked like a god. I mean, I was just looking at him like, he's so good looking. And then I had this kind of momentary sadness, because it occurred to me that he doesn't look at me that way, you know, because I'm always trying to catch him in a glance, and there's no glance to catch him in. And I felt less, just kind of a pang in that moment, because I don't get that from him. It's not something that he does. It's not to say that he doesn't find me desirable. He has thoughts about it and feelings and things like this. He just doesn't express it. It's not something that he thinks about. That's why he'll do this thing, like 2 days later he'll say, "Oh, you looked nice 2 days ago." Because he will see me and think, "She looks nice," but he won't think to say it in that moment. And then once another thought comes in, that thought is lost. And then maybe 2 days or so later he'll think, "Oh, that's right, I was going to say that nice positive thing to her." Which again is a recent development. As I've mentioned, the compliments have only started in the last so many years. And I'm not really sure what made that change happen. And when I ask him, he can't tell me what change made that happen. He only says that he realises now that he's been taking me for granted all this time, and that he wished he was nicer and more affectionate and more lovely back then. Even more so now that he's doing it and it isn't having the desired effect that he had hoped it would, or even that I had hoped it would. I had wanted him to pay me compliments from the beginning, and he didn't. And now he's starting to. It's a little bit too little too late, or I hadn't been feeling desired by him for so long that now when he gives me a compliment, I don't feel desired anyway. And it's funny too, because he'll compliment me at the most random times. I'll have my hair really messy and just, woke up look or something, and daggy tracksuit or something, which I never owned when I first met him, incidentally. I never owned tracksuit pants, sweat clothes, workout clothes, hoodies. I was always a slacks and blouses kind of person, and jackets and, fine clothing. And of course, because it was so relevant to him, I just stopped caring and stopped doing that. So now I'll be dagging around in tracksuit or even pajamas, and he'll say, "Hey, looking good, babe," and I'm like, "Okay, thanks." But in my mind I'm thinking, I don't really believe it, but it's just nice that he's trying. But even in saying that, his level of trying is different. So as I mentioned, I dated neurotypicals before him. and their levels of compliments would be somewhere sort of, around this zone. And on a really good day, they'll be up here, and on a really bad day, they'll be down there. And his trying is still several rungs down the ladder above their worst day, because the compliments will be maybe once a week, and they'll be, like, looking good, babe, and that's as much as you get. And it's cool that he's thought about it and he's saying it, but it is not enough to bring about any kind of feelings of being desired. And that's the hardest part, is that even when he does try, because it isn't in his nature, it's not going to be something that he succeeds at, I don't think. I'm not sure if you're on the spectrum, you've ever mastered this. If you have, let me know. Though chances are you probably don't care about mastering it. You're probably just thinking, you neurotypicals, you want too much. For years and years, I had been trying to convince myself that I felt desirable. So I was doing things like wearing the nice underwear and sexy clothes and sprucing myself up, and I would flirt with him and be playful and do all of that kind of stuff. And I would convince myself that I felt desired by doing these things. Though really it was just me being in the mood, feeling frisky, and rolling with that, and him going, okay, she's in the mood, I'll just roll with this. And I had convinced myself that him ignoring me all day, but then putting the moves on me in bed, meant that I felt desired by him. But in point of fact, I actually just felt used. And after some time, I started to talk to him about how I just felt used. When you ignore somebody all day and then come to bed and expect that they're going to be interested in you sexually after you have paid them zero attention, it just feels like you may as well have called up a call girl for all of the intimacy or lack thereof that there was. So obviously it interfered with the sex life, because it's hard to have sex with somebody who doesn't make you feel like you are desired. You just feel like a piece of meat, just something that gets done because you're there. And I would say that to him, like, I feel like you're only doing me because I'm here. And he would say, no, I like you. I'm not putting the moves on you, and I wouldn't put the moves on you if I didn't like you. And he's saying that, but none of his actions or his looks, or, like the looks, give that impression. You really feel like you are invisible and absent all day, and then come bedtime, he kind of feels that you're there and just goes, yep, this is the moment to put the moves on. It feels so perfunctory, very, very perfunctory. When we had sex, I started to sort of take myself out of the moment and fantasize about different scenarios. Scenarios where we'd gone to a party and he'd been flirting with me all that time, things like that. And I hadn't really thought much about it, aside from it felt bad that I had to take myself to some other place in order to enjoy the sessions with him. But I was speaking recently to another lady who has a neurodiverse partner, and she was saying that she had to take herself to another place to escape the moment. And when she said that, I said to her, it's almost like how multiple personalities are formed, how they'll take themselves to some other part of their mind in order to escape the trauma. And I thought, that's kind of what I've been doing. I mean, it's not traumatic, but it's very empty, because you have none of that desire and the build-up and the passion or anything like this. When you do eventually get down to it and get jiggy with it, there's a certain lust missing. And so I would then take myself off into these like fantasies and daydreams and such, And imagine a world where I was desired and lusted after and complimented and things like this, just to get myself in the mood during the session, because he wasn't very good at getting me in the mood. Because he's not a man who shows desire, you don't feel that desire even when you're in the moment. I mean, I'm looking at him and that's nice. Like visually he's very appealing. And I suppose that's what sort of kept me going all these years. But mentally and physically, he's not appealing in the sense that he doesn't do anything to make me feel appealing. There's no him giving me those lustful looks and things like this. And yes, he'll compliment me during the sessions about body parts. And I suppose it's terrible that I call our sex sessions or the deed. I would like to call it making love, but it just doesn't feel that way. And so as I was saying, he will compliment body parts, you know, like nice boobs, nice bum. And I'm like, whoopee-doo, every girl's got those. And he has said that I am impressive in bed and things like this, but he compliments me only in that moment, and there is nothing outside of it. So once the sex is finished, the desire, or lack thereof, is just gone again. And for me, I think that's one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with within the relationship, is that lack of desire, that lack of feeling desired. And I tried things like asking him to give me full body massages, and he wouldn't do it. Or he would do it and it was awful. And then I would show him, no, this is the massage that I want. Then he would do the massage and it would be like lackluster or painful. And I'd be like, that's not at all what I just showed you what I wanted. What are you doing? Or I'd ask him to sort of observe me doing things and just to learn how I like things being done. I was trying all manner of different things to get it to be that he would be showing me desire outside of the deed, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. It just wasn't registering for him. I think it's one of those things where, because he doesn't express desire, he's not aware that it's even missing, which is really a fascinating concept from a neurotypical point of view. And so because I would ask him to do things and his answer was always no, now when he asks me to do things for him, my answer is no. I'm not doing it to be spiteful or hateful or resentful. It's just that if I am not getting it, I cannot give it. I guess that's the easiest way to put that into a sentence. So there's a few things going on here. Firstly, he doesn't think about me during the day. He has admitted that to me, and that's okay. I mean, I know that that's what's going on. I knew that right from the very beginning. Him admitting it to me was not a light bulb moment, although it was good for at least him to acknowledge that that's what's going on. And because he's not thinking of me during the day because he's got so many other things on his mind, desirability is not up there. It's not on his radar. He's not thinking about the potential of having sex later and the lead up and the build up to that. He's just getting about his day and not thinking about that at all. Another thing is he doesn't know how to make me feel desired. He doesn't know what it looks like. He doesn't know what it feels like. If I explain it to him, I think he just thinks maybe I'm talking a whole other language, like he can't imagine the concept. Like, as I said, I can say, look, it looks like you're giving me a kiss on the neck. And he might hear me say that, maybe he's visualized it, but he still won't do it because it's not something that is innate for him. So it's just not this thing that he knows how to do, even if it's explained to him. And the fact that I can give him examples and explain it to him and talk about it, and he still has that inability to do it, suggests that it's too complicated for him to grasp. It's not like, say, a sports game where you have very specific rules and tactics and, ways of play, standards of play. Desirability is so variable. It's all different kinds of aspects of small human interactions, looks, touches, words, all of the things that he struggles with. So, of course, being on the spectrum, he's going to struggle with showing desire, making somebody feel desired. And sadly, it's a case of anything that isn't nurtured dies. I've gone from feeling undesirable to feeling a complete and utter lack of desire for him and for intimacy. Nowadays, I don't even care that it's missing. I mean, I care. There's always a part of you that knows that something's missing and it matters. But I don't care in the sense that I no longer talk to him about it. I no longer seek it from him. When he does give me those odd random compliments that are so sporadic and sparse that they just don't cut it, I just don't care anymore. There's no part of me that wants to feel desired by him, that cares about it anymore. As I said, I've stopped dressing nicely. I just don't care about appealing to him. I don't care about trying to be appealing. I have just kind of given up that side of things. Just put that in the, too hard basket and left it there. So again, I ask you, can you relate? Is this how your relationship has rolled as well? If you are on the spectrum, what are your thoughts on desire? Do you feel that you do show your desire of your partner, or do you just straight up not have any? Or do you just think neurotypicals just want too much? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video.